A very big welcome to the course, everybody, in this very strange environment. I'm Caroline, if anyone hasn't met me yet. A big welcome to the course. What I'd like to do just first is to tell you a little bit about how we're going to do things. Okay, so I will basically give you this little film, an instructive film on how to do things, and then towards the end of the session, the last half an hour, we'll go on Zoom and have a look at what everyone's done. Actually the first thing I'd like to say is it's quite important before the session to actually have everything ready, okay? And then you're not sort of frantically running around losing time. And I want you calm, I want you collected. So setting out the table, materials. So I've got in fact I've been very lucky, I've got a very big board which I've put on top of my table. I've got all my things out that I want in the order that I want them, and they're all ready. So everything's set out. Materials, it's a difficult one, whatever you've got. I'm working today with charcoal, just charcoal and rubber really today. But if you can get some Unison pastels in the brick red number 11, the deep red brick red, that would be lovely. Or just simply brick red Conte, some white, some black, rowdy black pastel I put on the notes as well. Inks, anything that you have. It's quite informal in that way. Paper, I was struggling with the paper. Have I got enough? So just whatever paper you can, even the back of an envelope is fine. Okay, so I've got all my things ready, and I've set my table and my laptop. Sorry, I closed it a minute ago and it's sort of come out, sorry. That will happen. I'll get my laptop ready. Right, I'm in, good. Right, so I've got my laptop ready, everything's ready. So, so basically, what I've designed this course around is actually the idea of the stuff in the life room that we just tend to glide past because it's such an interesting environment. You've got the model there, you're dying to start. There's this kind of desperation to start. So I want to turn this lockdown situation into something quite useful. If there's anything good out of this, I want this to be it, okay? So I'm looking for basically getting you into the more foundation level of the theory that is always rushed because you want that practical time with the model. Okay, yes, we will be doing lots of practical things. I will be setting you practical things, but I want to delve a little bit deeper. Even though, I'm doing line today, and those of you who've been with me, not line again. But what I noticed from your drawing is that you haven't got it. You haven't really got it. It's when you've got it, that's when I'm going to keep quiet. So I'm being quite tough now. Okay, so you haven't completely got it. So I'm going to go into line. I'm going to talk about three-dimensional line. I'm going to talk about tonal line. I'm going to talk about linear scale. I'm going to talk about expressive line and also the sort of visual flow of looking at the model only. And we'll be finally looking at examining artists who used line in very interesting ways. Okay, so what I'd like to talk about now is really how three-dimensional line works. So I'm going to draw basically, I know, forgive me, some of you have seen this quite a few times, but it's just for people who haven't seen this. So what I'm doing now is I will get to the model, don't worry. I'm drawing a tree, okay. I don't know if you can see that tree. So it's not particularly interesting, is it? It's quite flat, it's quite boring. By simply doing that, can you feel it's beginning to come to life? You've got this line in front of this line, you've got this line in front of this line. Okay, now I'm going to take it a bit further. But I'm just going to simply go over these lines and make them not only bigger, but darker. Okay, so can you feel, I don't know if I should move it, but can you feel a sense of light coming across from west to east? Okay, so there's so much you can do with line. Okay, I'm going to turn it over a minute. And now I'm going to translate this into just the back of somebody's arm. Let's see how far we can go. I don't know if you can, sorry, I moved my body a bit. The back of somebody's arm. So I'm just thinking, imagining a model here. I've got a model in front of me. That line in front. So I don't know if you can read that. I think that'll be kind of more there. This will be in front of here. Got the head here. Sorry, it's a little bit out of proportion, but can you read the back of somebody's arm? Okay, the back of somebody's arm. So this line is in front of this line and the arm is receding into the space. The bone, the elbow bone line is coming in front. So it comes and it stems, you know, from not only bones, but sort of the basic muscle shapes. You know, this is a sort of basic muscle shape. I'll try and make it more three-dimensional. Basic muscle shapes, you know, that in fact the muscle of this this particular bit of the shoulder, I'm exaggerating it, is sort of a little bit like that. So the basic muscles. So we're full of kind of bulges, and you know, the muscle actually, if you can see my hand, can you see my hand? But the muscles actually sort of overlap each other. They overlap each other, and that creates the three-dimensionality in the line. So what I'm going to do now is what I would like you to do in every session. Okay, this is very key, this is very fundamental to getting a more profound sense of observation. Okay, so I've got one of the photographs up. I'm sending it to you. You're going to have the photographs, you know, which you can source. I've got this source photograph. I can't show it to you for copyright reasons, and you know, it's not, it's against the rules. So sadly, I can't show it to you. But anyway. Yes, okay, I'll show you that later. So I want you to watch me now, okay? Watch me and what I do rather than the drawing. Don't worry that you can't see the drawing. So I'm looking at the screen and I'm positioning, I hope, my charcoal. I'm not going to look at my paper at all. I'm just going to lock the line onto the model and draw the model only. In fact, you can do a lot of practice with this in front of your window with a felt pen, just a felt pen that's not going to stain your window, and just go around the outline of a car, go around the outline of a chimney pot, or just literally trace your finger around the outline of something, okay? So now, looking at the model, if you look at me, have you noticed that I haven't looked at the paper at all? So I'm locked the charcoal on the line of the model, okay? And the problem with this is you can't relate the lines to each other. So I'm now going up to the shoulder. I'm probably going a little bit fast actually. I'd like it to be a little bit slow. Going up to the shoulder, and I'm going to go across. What I'm doing also is I'm not going to lift the charcoal off the paper at all. I don't mind the lines sort of running into each other. Now I'm looking at the sort of negative shape space. There's a sort of negative shape space where the hip is, which is a sort of triangle. And now I'm going down, and now I'm going to go to the bottom. I haven't looked at the drawing at all. So you might find I've put the bottom actually on the shoulder, who knows. I hope I haven't. I'm just sort of feeling my way around it. I wonder if that's enough. Also, you don't have to work too big. I'm finding the images are so small. I'm doing the hand now, the sort of exterior shape of it. I'm not too worried about fingers. I'm thinking about the three-dimensional line, but I can't overlap them because I can't see. So I think that's probably enough. I'm going to look. You can see my drawing now. I hope it's not too upside down. You can see my drawing now. So, you know, for instance, this arm is not quite relating to itself. I haven't done the head. That's kind of what I want it to look like. It could be sort of, in fact, it's remarkably accurate. It seems, you know, the bottom isn't quite in the wrong place. It's remarkably accurate. So if you feel you're not happy with it, the wonderful thing about charcoal is you can sort of push it back or rub it out. In fact, generally I quite like you to keep your model-only picture. So you can keep it if you want. I'll just take it back just so I know some people find it quite distracting. So when you start, as a beginner, when you start a drawing, it's quite a good idea to sort of draw a little sort of pin man. Where's the head? What's the body rhythm? This is the shoulder, this is the back, this is the hips, this is the arm. So you can sort of, you probably feel, if you can look at this finished drawing, you can see what I'm drawing actually, the Pin Man. You can see see where I'm going with it. So the shoulders are there, the head is there, the bottom is there, okay? So that's one I prepared earlier. I feel like a cooking show now. So there's the Pin Man. So now the starting point. This is the beginnings of proportion. So I've got my starting point. I feel this shoulder has got a little bit of detail in it. I quite like to have my starting point quite high up in the figure, actually. I make such a fuss of the starting point, don't I? I know, I make such a fuss of it. It's worth actually taking quite a bit of time over the starting point, because it basically is going to it's going to lead the whole drawing. Wish I could make it a little bit clearer for you. Let's make it a bit clearer. This half-tone paper. There you go. I don't know if you can see that a bit more clearly now. So this is the shoulder. I've made her a little more muscular than she really is. This is the shoulder. So I feel that everything now in this drawing is going to relate to this left arm. Okay. The three-dimensional line, this is a classic example, beautiful example of three-dimensional line. This arm is actually coming in front of the torso here, just slightly. I'm looking at the model only as I go down with that line. The head is going in this kind of direction. Whoops, charcoal's broken, never mind. The other shoulder. So as I do the other shoulder, you know, sometimes actually if you put your finger on the starting point, it makes you sort of note it. So the shoulder is that relating to the starting point. In fact, if I draw a line, I find that the shoulder begins. This shoulder is level with that starting point. And then what about this other shoulder, the slant of the shoulders? Where does this come in relationship to the starting point? Sort of somewhere lower down here. And another gorgeous, obvious piece of line, of three-dimensional line. Okay. So I'm looking at, let's bring it back to the paper, I'm looking at this bit now on the photograph, which you can't see. So, charcoal keeps breaking, sorry. Coming down, and then you've got the back actually, which is quite correct. And then where is the bottom in relationship to the starting point? Position it. This elbow, this bottom, sort of somewhere there. So I'm constantly relating to the starting point. This flank is lower, this leg is coming here, this hip is coming out. Looking at this negative shape of space, I'm not quite happy with it. I think it could come out a bit. And this arm is so unexpectedly long. Arms are longer than you think. I'm using the rubber quite happily actually. The rubber is your friend. It's not an admission of guilt. It's an editing instrument. It's a wonderful, try and re-evaluate it in your mind, rename it in your mind. Your teacher at school was probably an admission of something wrong. The rubber is an editing instrument. It's a creative instrument. So now I'm coming down into the thigh, and then let's look at this bit, and then head. Head is slightly over. I don't go into heads in a big way. I think you can be very distracted. The good thing about this model here that I'm drawing is the fact that it's a back view, so you can't get distracted by portraiture and features. This is a model only line. Actually, I would leave it. Okay, let's leave it. Hopefully it won't distract you. Sometimes I love, most of the time actually, I quite leave my model only lines. There's a sort of wonderful freedom to them. So there we have the basic line drawing. Okay, there we have the basic line. It would actually be nice to have the other hand. It's quite nice if you can get a good hand in it. So this is the other hand. So there we have it, the basic model. Basically what's wrong with this? Nothing particularly wrong with it. All the lines are the same tonality all around it. So if I pick up a more tonal version and put it on here, you can see that in fact the light is coming from the west, it's coming from the left, and the shadow is coming from the right, okay. And we're going to get onto this. This is later in the course. I've done a film actually later in the course with this one. So I'm not going to prescribe anything to you. When you draw a line, do you feel it to be a light line? Do you feel it to be a dark line? Do you feel it to be a thick line? Do you feel it to be a thin line? The most obvious one that what I mean when I say this is the bottom is probably the darkest, thickest, most drama, in fact I want this line to be in front, dramatic line that you could have. Also there's moments actually where the two lines come together, two forms come together just here. Actually I think I'm drawing two legs at the same time, and then it turns quite majestically into the other leg, okay. I haven't quite got to grips with this negative shape of space here. So that's a very thick line. Then, this is a very kind of fussy also drawing. Hopefully you're going to see this in the life room. I would imagine this line to be really kind of ephemeral and sort of pale and kind of wispy. And this line, actually there's a little bit of light leaking round. I was dying to do that dark, but no, tell the truth, Caroline, it's actually quite light. Where's another dark line? This is the most obvious dark line. The other lines are actually, there's little bits of light leaking from behind her, and that's a tonal value scenario which I'll be talking about later. This line's incredibly dark. So this line's quite light, quite pale. This line could be kind of pretty average. So hopefully you can feel the sense of light, okay. So that's basically that drawing. There's the three-dimensionality of the line, the thickness and thinness of the line, the tonality, how dark the lines are. It's no exact science. It's what can you see? What can you see? So that's the 3D line drawing, okay. And actually you can do a few of them. It would be great if you can do a few of them, okay. Starting with looking at the model only. Okay, so now I want to approach it from a different media. This is quite demanding of me because I just don't know if you've got it at home. What I find quite fun in my own work is working over text. And I found, you can either just use a piece of newspaper. I'll stick this here so you can see a piece of newspaper, or if you don't want to work over text, that's fine. I've just found a piece of old book that was sort of damaged and broken and interrupted anyway. I would never want to break a book. I tore it and I stuck it on this piece of paper, okay. I quite like the way with some artists you get this kind of image flowing over and beyond, and it's lovely to do line drawing over it. When I'm on the road, which is very rare now, I love to sort of do a lot of drawing in my sketchbook. You probably saw this in the still shot, but I love faces on the tube trains. And I do, when you're working on the road, when you're working on the tube, I mean, gosh, we're not going to be on the tube at the moment, but even from home, when you're working on the road or you're in a bit of a hurry, a line drawing is sometimes all you have time for. But I'm going to show you a little bit of sort of linear tone as well. This for instance, I did in Starbucks or Pret or somewhere, I can't remember, it was just like a coffee cup. That's a really, really good way of keeping your drawing going when you're working at home. You just find something to draw, just something that sort of interests you, and then draw it. It's actually quite a tonal drawing, but it's sort of linear tone. So it sort of starts with line. So when your next few drawings, I'd love you to experiment with, you could actually use a reed pen if you've got one. You could do some fast ones, actually, with either the charcoal, the pastel, a reed pen. You could do a fast drawing. Try not to lift the instrument off the piece of paper. You could have a continuous line. I know how inventive some of you have watery line. So try and do a few in different medias. I think I'm being a little bit conservative, actually. So I just did this one. This is actually of a Rodin sculpture. Rodin sculptures are gorgeous. They're full of dynamism and beauty. You could use actually, I've got quite an uptight pen here, but you could use, I love this one actually. Can't quite decide what to use. This one's a sort of a more italic-y kind of pen. So I might even start it with this one. Why not? It's a little bit freer. Again, let's just think about the Pin Man. Okay, I might not do all of this to the end because you can see the end result, and I don't want to have you just watch me draw. You know the form. So I'm just drawing the basic. So this is quite a free line. This sort of Pin Man is quite a free line, and looking at the whole thing. His shoulder. It will time out, you'll find your laptop. Use your little finger because it's less dirty when your main image sort of times out. And I love the dynamism of this pen. I kind of wish this pen was just a little bit thicker. I'm going into the... And you can see how my line is flowing over and beyond the text, okay? So I'm just continuing with this line drawing. And actually I feel I haven't quite sort of got, I can't wait, I can't resist, I'm going to go into my other pen. You know what, a biro, just a normal biro would suffice. Some of you actually quite like pencil as well, if you like to just do a pencil sketch, a really subtle pencil sketch. So now I'm kind of really committing myself into the starting point of this image. I've got the nose going, the lips going, so I'm just going into his features. So the great thing with pen is you can get this sort of really kind of gorgeous free line, and with my with my pastels, I find that I can start moving the pen across quite freely, looking at the model only. That sort of you could work a little bit more. I'm not going to say fast. Fast is sometimes quite slow. Slow is fast, but that really sort of lending a sort of spirit to the line. That spiritual line. The gesture of the line. I think you might see that later when I start working from tone. I usually start with the tone. There's also nothing to stop you if you want. I really want to cover this later, but if you want to sort of add a little wash, you could just use some tea bags and a brush. I'm not seeing so much wash in this one, but you could actually start adding wash where you see. Where you actually start seeing the shadows, where it's a very short demonstration. You can actually sort of see wash. I haven't got a finished one of that, sorry. But that was, in fact I sort of felt that I just wanted to stick to the line. I wanted that discipline of sticking to the line. It depends on your mood, okay? Okay, so now this is actually Egon Schiele, very famous artist. Very good line artist, and I just thought this was a really wonderful example of free line. It's very modelled only. I almost guarantee it. It's modelled only. That's the sort of, the more you look at the model only, the freer your line will get. You can, I don't know what he used, whether it's Conte or piece of charcoal. You've got this wonderful freedom in the line. So this is a coloured one. I thought I'd give you a splash of colour. I don't really want to talk about colour yet, but a coloured one. You can see which line, you know, this line is in front, that line is behind. He was such an expert in three-dimensional line. That's quite an interesting one. Okay, so this one's another one. It's like a sort of, I think, rather a beautiful piece of paper. Consider the paper that you're using. It's nice having a mellow, creamy, goldy paper like that. Another wonderful example of which line comes in front, which line behind. If you look at the rib cage here, that's in front. The breast is behind. Lovely little detail here, this line behind, that line in front. This line is in front, that line is behind. So simple, but so effective. So this is Käthe Kollwitz, you know, wonderful German artist. You can see in this instance a perfect example of tonal line. It's called The Call of Death or something like that. The hand on the left, the top left, is a sort of ghostly, pale, almost translucency against the sort of strong lines. If you look at her arm, the left hand side of her arm, that's a really strong line. So the variety of her lines, if you look in the hand, the veins in the hand, they're so light, they're so feathery. The variety of line that's sort of moving across that image is quite interesting. So this is another example of Käthe Kollwitz. Lovely piece of paper again, lovely sort of mellow cream paper. But to me, this actually really perfectly describes how sort of mark making, I suppose more mark making than line, can suddenly quickly get you from sort of west to east or east to west. So she just didn't particularly want to describe this bit. She just chunk, 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 and then up to the other side. So it's a lovely kind of gesture, a sort of scribble of marks getting you across to the other side. Like I think that's nice. And I love the broadness of it because it lends a certain impact to the areas of more delicately drawn and more thoroughly drawn detail. So it's only the details shine because of the generality of the line that moving from west to east or east to west of that arm. William Kentridge was another perfect example of an artist who did line over text. He did these beautiful little movies, look him up, fantastic movies of him, like cine films, animation drawings of him doing drawings, and then he would amend it. I loved the fact he would rub it out and then do another drawing and then take a shot. It's like these animation films. Really charming, really beautiful, but the line, that freedom of this line drawing flowing over and beyond the text. Actually, these are quite tonal, but he would do lots of line drawings as well. Okay, this one again, it's a very broad line. In fact, it's like with a brush, I think. He's such an expert. He would draw so confidently with this very floppy Chinese kind of brush. These gorgeous line drawings. This is a typewriter drawn over text. It's sort of linear, but it's also very blocky and tonal as well. So another one, again with William Kentridge. I think this is quite a good one to show you because this is where your line could go when you get more confident. This is a very confident, slightly sort of, I'm trying to think of a polite word to put it, slightly sort of roguish. That's probably the politest way I could put it. A roguish line. So he's very, very defiant, slightly rough, very passionate, quite urgent. There's an urgency in this line. That's much more contemporary, and that's where you can head later on when you're more confident. So he's a quite contemporary artist, William Kentridge. You can look him up. So this artist is Baselitz, very contemporary artist. Some of you might like it, some of you might really like it or not. He used to paint upside down. This isn't an upside down video image. He likes to paint, so he doesn't used to, he does paint upside down. He generally likes to, he's known, characteristic for his upside down images. That's neither here nor there, but what I wanted to show you here is like how that can actually translate into your painting later on. A lot of artists will do these kind of sweeps of colour and then basically a coloured line on the top. Nolde was the same actually. He would have this line drawings over chaos, and it's only when you looked again that you realise they were line drawings over chaos. Okay, so finally, just to repeat what I would like you to do now, is to, to go over it again. I want you to do that model only thing that I did with nude, with the photograph of the nude. Sometimes the photographs of the nude, I worked it out actually myself. It took me a while. The photographs of the nudes were much more like the life drawing session than working from another artist. I thought I was working from Schiller. That didn't work. So choose a photograph of the nude if you can. That back view is really good. And then do a model only one. You can keep it just as a model only one and pick up another piece of paper if you want. Or you can develop it. Okay, so either way, then produce a line drawing with I want to see three-dimensional lines, I want to see tonal lines, I want to see the breadth of the line, I want to see everything that I've covered. You can have expressive line, I want to see a variety of line going right across the image. I want you to be able to tell me where you started. So if you start the drawing quite slowly, I think if you start with the Pin Man, it's quite difficult to translate the model only one into the Pin Man. That's why I deleted it a little bit for you. So you can just start with the Pin Man to look at the body rhythm. Then you go to the starting point, stick to the starting point, relate to the starting point, refer to the starting point. That is the captain of your ship. Okay, that shoulder was the starting point. Then do another one. You can actually do some freer ones afterwards, like not lifting the charcoal. Do one not lifting the charcoal. I'd like you to do one with your left hand. Okay. I'd like you to do one with a charcoal. I'd like you to do one with a pen, if possible. If you find the pen is too fine, I found my pen was a little bit fine for the scale that I wanted to work. You can go down inside. You notice these drawings were quite a lot smaller than what I'd normally use. I'd like you to do a line drawing over collage. If you want to put some ink into it, that's fine. It's a little bit, I'm going to cover that later on. But if you feel that would be fun to do one later on, if you're feeling restless and you're itching to do that. But really what I wanted to do is to really reinforce the knowledge of line. I hope it's useful. And then if you rejoin me on Zoom, to reiterate, to rejoin me on Zoom literally half an hour before the end of the course. So I haven't been given the exact time frame, but exactly half an hour before the end, you will be sent an invitation on Zoom. You simply click on it, and then wait to be admitted to the room, the computer room, and I'll take you from there. And I really look forward to seeing you then. Okay, thank you all very, very much. That was Line.